Yeah, I mean, there's many ways we can talk about it, but let's just very quickly and blandly, non-scientifically put it as a substance, whether it's a chemical substance or a herbal substance, but it's a substance that's going to get that brain version, whether it's hormonally, whether it's looking at the creation of neural pathways and generally supporting the matter of the brain, quality of blood going to the brain flow of the brain, leading to greater preservation of the tissue, greater memory, wit, recall, all of those beautiful things.
Wonderful. Thank you for that. And so, how do the Taoists view the brain? Let's start there.
Yeah, it's a really interesting one when we talk about brain health because most people will come to us asking which herbs are best for the brain. And for us, sitting in a Taoist lens, we need to have a lot of understanding for what that long term intention that person is tuning into, which a lot of the time, the beginning place of their journey, where they start venturing to an understanding of the brain, how we understand it, having a lot to do with every organ system, which we'll talk about. Generally, it is memory, not having brain fog when you get towards the afternoon, having the legs, the mental legs, having the endurance to get to 2 and 3 o'clock and still be able to think in any particular way, which that could a lot of the time be addressed at looking at the 24-hour organ wheel of Taoism and seeing perhaps we are just trying to pushing stuff uphill in terms of the way that we're trying to think at that time of day. But nonetheless, that's where people generally are. And so a lot of people find results in that. And as I said, memory, wit, recall, you can very simply go to a nootropic blend like neural nectar or lion's mane, single mushroom nootropic, which is having beautiful results on the brain, or another blend which is highly geared towards that Western understanding of what that output, being the chi blend, especially having one of those at 3 in the afternoon, you're going to get that result. But that's because all of these things are a great starting point and you're going to get those results. And so you can see that there's a cultivation of those because you're focused on it. You can see your memory starts to improve, and that's your entry. That's the white rabbit that you're following, and then you follow the white rabbit down the tunnel. And then if you just keep on following that intention, maybe you don't have time in the way that your life is revolving right now to go down there yet. So you stay in your focus on it just being memory, recall, wit. That's fine. Or maybe a lot of people, it's a long-term, not in a negative way, but it's a conscientiousness or fear because family members have neurodegeneration. And so you want to start focusing on that. You sit in those places. And then as your life opens up and gives you a little bit more space to go a little bit deeper, that's when you can go deeper. And that's why Taoists, it's so nice for Taoism. And because it makes us so versatile, we can meet people in talking about those specific intentions that evolve from a Western reductionist understanding of the brain, that organ matter that sits within the skull, that translation of brain or central pool of matter that thinks. Really, we can look at the Dantiens as the first place there is a translation of the three brains or the three reservoirs in where we are collecting ourselves, life, information, matter. So we've got that lower Dantien. I think many people would know this, but it wouldn't be bad just to go over it. Just a little, the hara in Japanese, just that 2 inches roughly below the belly button and 2 inches in. That's like that center of the universe physically. And then the Dantien, the heart, and the middle jiao, middle Dantien, and then our upper Dantien. And there's Sanjiao, there's an organ system, a triple burner organ system, even that is all about the communication and harmonization of these three brains, these three central pools where we do think. And if you look at what's happened in the West and what we talk about now as people, I think right now it's probably a little outdated, but it used to be one of the things when you were a new wellness influencer in your things to go and say wrote was, did you know that there's a gut-brain connection? And so we know about the neural activity that is occurring within the gut. And likewise, if you look at like Heart Math Institute, they're going and studying the beautiful extent that there is neural activity within the heart organ system itself. So when we talk about the brain, it's a weird one because it's a bit conceptual when you look at it from a Taoist perspective, but when you look at it over the span of a lifetime, it makes way more sense to look at it from a Taoist perspective rather than keep all of those features and those outputs located to this one organ system. Because we can't, ironically, maintain focus on one organ system and the attribution of things like memory and recall and us having clarity and us being able to stay focused, it's impossible. And why is that? It's because it doesn't actually fit the reality. In reality, it isn't that matter within the skull that is bringing us this ability to focus. And that's why you see people burn out from that, say, entrepreneurial space, which is go, and then the biohacking space, because it's a great entry, but at some point you rub up against the reality. And the reality is, like the Taoists say, that output of the health of the marrow, which is within the skull, that's one of the called the extraordinary fu organs. Extraordinary fu organs is something I'm not going to go deep into, but it's a really fun one once you've gone through and you've looked at the yang organs and the yin organs and their pairings, and you've learned that when you go to the six extraordinary organs, the sea of marrow, the gallbladder, in a bit of a different context from it being the yang organ, to the liver, the uterus, the room of Jing, and the seat of creation for men and women, which is like, we get into a little bit of a fun conversation there. The marrow itself, the mai, which is the blood vessels, and then the bones, you see they have an extraordinary function in the body as well. And you actually start to go, okay, so that literal brain and nervous system located in the skull and the upper Dantian has a description and has a function. And you're going to see, though, that function is different to the isolated function of the West. Both are good. It's a really good exercise for your brain if you can hold the two conversations in mutual respect at the same time, because it'll lead you further down the road to the truth. So it's like speaking two languages, though. So where you do lead to, though, is in what gives us this output of memory, long-term capacity to focus on those things that matter. Well, you're going to need to transform a lot of energies over a long time in order to maintain that, and especially maintain that capacity when you're getting to 80 and when you're getting to 90. And it's not just going to be taking nootropics, although that's going to help a lot. However, we need to realize that we can just start here, all those major 5 organ systems, thinking in their own particular way, processing emotions in their own particular way, having their contribution to say something which is very important to mental health long term, being the creation and movement and nourishment of blood. What those 5 organs do, that thinking and that processing of that chi or substance, or you can go into the chemicals, then they go and they get cultivated within the health of the Dantien. They feed that Dantien health, and then the Dantiens have that cultivation, and then they can communicate and keep the system moving forward healthier and healthier, which is, it's very fun. And you only go so slow in terms of what your mind can handle. And so in terms of embracing that more holistic Taoist perspective is really nice because it really is approachable language. It's like rolling out a project. Just go through simple phases. Phase 1, we'll just talk about Dantians, and phase 2 is just considering that, that's the sea of marrow in the skull. And the sea of marrow emerges from the kidneys and is governed and nourished and loved by the kidneys. So the physical brain is connected to and is an extension of the kidneys. And that's a real great first phase for you, and a really great mental exercise.